have like a mosquito in a jar?
I think you're the one that owes an explanation, Lewis. We all know where that came from.
Certainly not.
I don't see anything happening on the live stream. I think we're completely toast. What is going on? I see nothing. What? I hear nothing.
What do you mean?
Oh, but it says we're connected. Let's hope that's not true. Boom! Unfortunately, we have been live for several minutes now. We got Caveman here. We got Betty Reyes. We got Gary Gibson. Yes, you can hear us. Fantastic. Sorry about that. We got Lewis in the chat. Look at that. Maybe he's going to leave us
a wrench.
Maybe he's going to leave us a super chat. Lewis,
I would give Leander $5 for a sandwich.
Well, I think YouTube takes half, so you better give him 10. And
well,
actually, it's 2024.
Will buy you a sandwich, so I need to give him $40 for a sandwich. Is what you're saying?
Remember when a footlong was $5? The Subway by my house now, the 6-inch is like $9.
And it's got half as much quote unquote meat.
Meat in parentheses. I swear I saw that like an ingredients list for a Subway sandwich, and like everything but the roast beef. This was my recollection. Don't sue me. Was all made of turkey. Like no matter what you get, the chicken, the turkey, the other meats, all turkey. And like the actual roast beef is not turkey, but everything else is just ground up, extruded turkey. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. This was years ago. I haven't been to a Subway. Dude, who goes to Subway? Does anyone eat at Subway anymore?
I went to one maybe 5 years ago.
Everyone went to one 5 years ago, but they've not been back
down
since.
The road.
Okay.
It was all. You know what? It was okay. The problem with Subway is that you don't know if you're going to a good Subway or a skimpy Subway. That's the problem.
Oh, man.
Sometimes you go in there and they're like, oh, here's a slice of green pepper. Would you like more? Here's a sliver of onion. And you're just like, what the? I remember back in my college days, University of Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
Man, they would pile those things up. The steak and cheese sub. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. And they always had coupons where you could get like a footlong sub and a soda for $4.99.
Yeah, I know, man. Those days have long gone. There is no faster way to lose me as a customer or ruin my day than to be stingy on the helpings on my burrito, on my sandwich. Chipotle has a major problem with this. Like, it is a complete crapshoot at the Chipotle near my house. Like, I'll go up there and I'm looking at the person serving and I'm like, do I want to wait in line and try to avoid this person? That person looks like a skimper. You know what I mean? It's like they're gonna be, oh, here's your beef, and then like they sprinkle on a few pebbles of beef on your burrito. Like the rice scooper is like barely full, and it's like they're either iron deficient or they really just don't like serving people. They can't lift the scooper, and they're barely putting on. It's like, oh, here's your taco, and it's like there's barely anything on it, and now the prices are sky high. And if I see you do that, oh man, I'm out of there. I think that it happens way too often. I actually wrote to Chipotle corporate. I was like, you got to do something about this Chipotle near my house. This
particular one.
This particular one. I got so sick of it. I was like, you got to do something about this Chipotle. They're ruining your business. I'm not going to come back because every time I go there, like 80% of the time, I get somebody who just will not put anything on the burrito. And I'm like, I'm sick of it, man. Your prices are too high.
There's no better way to distract two middle-aged white guys than to get them talking about the high price of food and the small portions. In the time you were talking about that, I could have stolen the Mona Lisa or, broken into your house and taken your TV.
First of all, there's only one middle-aged white guy on this show. So let's get the facts straight. Second,
I hope you're not implying that I'm a senior citizen.
Middle-aged, if you live the right way.
Yeah, and then we have one senior citizen. So first of all, get your facts
all right,
straight.
Put your dukes up.
But the struggle is real. Like when you're spending like $14 on a burrito, there is this
Wait, sorry. I just want to make sure you weren't confused. That was not an invitation to keep going.
Yeah, well, unfortunately for you, I have the microphone. I'm doing the broadcast. There's nothing you can do but just sit here and listen. But I will for the sake of our listeners, I will keep this short. I went to a new taco stand in Seattle. I'm not done.
What's going on?
And like this place, first of all, I got there right at 7 because I heard it was popular. I get there at 7. There's already a 10-foot line. By the time I get up to order, no joke. This is not an exaggeration. 60-foot line. The line was around the block. And I was like, wow. I get up to order my food, and these guys are doing things with burritos I've never seen done before. Like melting the cheese on the actual griddle and then putting the tortilla on top of it so it goes on melted. I mean, like crazy burrito tricks. This guy piled the meat on my burrito. It must have been like 4 inches high. This guy, he had to be losing money on these burritos. They were way cheaper than Chipotle, and the thing weighed like 6 pounds. I couldn't even finish it. That's what I'm talking about. Now that place is getting my business.
I'm hungry. You guys want to take a break?
Yeah.
Go get some lunch.
I think we should just go ahead and call it good there. It's only downhill from here. All right. Enough burrito talk. Although I could do a whole episode on this if you guys want. It has been way too long since we've done an off topic. Maybe this is it.
Just copy and paste. Just copy and paste this.
I want to do a shout out to Gary Gibson, who says, love you guys, been listening, watching since the very first podcast. An original member of the Gov Club. Unbelievable. I always love hearing from you all. I don't even know how long it's been. I think we're about to hit 13 years. You know? And
it's hard to believe the 3 of us have been podcasting for that long.
And for Griffin, I think he's about to hit a 6-month anniversary. 13 years ago, Griffin was in utero.
Jeez.
But I think his parents were listening. All right. Should we
Just
go?
To be clear, Cult of Mac does not employ underage labor. I just want to be clear about that.
Well, you got his parents sign off to have him start.
All right, it's Ohio. Nobody cares.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't like the working age of consent like 7 there? That's for the minds. It's earlier for typing. All right. Should we get this thing moving? We got tons to talk about. Let's go ahead and move it along. Oh, Mrs. D. Mrs. D. Oh, my dear, did I hear someone say something about in utero? Oh, boy, here we go. Because I'll have you know I'm pregnant with El Katie's child. Oh, my goodness, Lewis. Oh, man, I hope he knows. I hope she's told him. He's going to be surprised by that. I mean, he isn't in his 70s. It's kind of late to restart with a new infant. But you know what? It's a circle of life, Lewis.
I saw him yesterday.
No.
Went over to his house.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, we had a nice long talk about Lasso product displays.
Oh, it's good to know that he's still with us. I wasn't sure about that. I honestly wasn't sure. All right. Well, Mrs. D, you've sufficiently grossed everyone out. No one wants to hear about that anymore. Let's go ahead and get this thing rolling. We got lots of stuff to talk about. So we'll get it rolling in... Oh, wait a second. Do we have browser mode working? Should I check? Ah! Thank God. Here we go. Going live in 3, 2. Hello, and welcome to the CultCast, the best 30-plus minute Apple conversation you're going to hear all week long. I'm your host, Airfront Elijah. Joining me today, when not editing for Cult of Mac, you'll find him in a local pub, dominating the dartboard, or on a stage, dressed in lederhosen. Or oiling the auto turrets surrounding Cult of Mac world headquarters so escaping writers are accurately targeted. He's the managing editor of Cult of Mac. Lewis Wallace is here.
Thank God lederhosen season's over.
Is it? That's too bad. Also with us, when it's time to go to sleep, he lovingly shuts down his Mac Mini, unplugs it, lays it down in his bed next to him. Sometimes he sings a lullaby. Sometimes he puts a wig and lipstick on it. It's weird, but we don't judge here on the program. Writer for Cult of Mac, Griffin Jones is here.
Good evening. This week's episode of the CultCast is like that one episode of a sitcom that you usually skip on a rewatch where it's like, you know, your least favorite side character is like the main central plot.
Oh, come on.
This week is the Griffin special.
Everyone wants to learn
all the
more
computers,
about
all the reviews. and they were all written by me. It was a very busy week.
Yeah, well, he's not joking. I don't even know if, well, at least about the reviews part. I think everyone wants to learn more about George Costanza, so I think you're fine there. But I think the challenge here is going to be for me and Lewis to figure out where we're going to talk. Which, you know what? You guys know I don't like to talk very much, so I'm happy just to kick back and let Griffin do the talking. Because Griffin this has to be some kind of world record. He has completed like 165 reviews in 1 week. I mean, if you're watching, you can see. I'll go full Griffin so you can see it. Look at all those computers behind him. He's got computers all over the place. All the new stuff. He's got a Mac Mini. He's got an iMac. Who knows what else is back there? He's going to be giving his reviews of the new Macs, the M4 Macs. I'll be talking more about the MacBook Pro, M4 Max versus M4 Pro versus M1 Max. I think for me, the most interesting part of the new Macs is it time to upgrade? Because I know a lot of us have the M1 still, because that thing is just it was so powerful, and it's still so capable. And I'm looking at the price of the new Macs, and I'm looking at what my M1 Max can do, and I'm like, is it time? I think it's time. But tons of reviews out now, although not as many as I would have guessed at this time period. Like, I would have guessed that we would have had way more benchmarks out, and we still are lacking in a lot of areas. Like, I have barely seen any 14-inch MacBook Pro versus 16-inch MacBook Pro videos out there. In fact, I don't think that we have a single one that I've seen, which I find to be very odd. Overheating tests, like there's a lot of stuff that I feel like we just haven't gotten yet, which I have found to be odd. Anyway, we'll run through everything. Before we jump right in, I want to thank all of you for supporting the program in so many ways. I know many of you are supporting at support.thecultcast.com, which we certainly appreciate. And you could certainly do that, and that helps the show a lot. We are bringing back Off Topic, which will forever be ad-free and free for all, thanks to those of you who support. And I also want to give you another quick reminder about CultCloth. I'm vamping because I forgot to bring it up. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of orders. And CultCloth remains the absolute best cleaning cloth for all of your high-end equipment, your Mac Mini, your iPad, your TV, your glasses, your cars, your camera equipment, your lenses. I mean, I use these things all the time. They are outstanding, and they truly are the best. And we just upgraded our carry cloth to a new version that is even better than the old version. I mean, of course it is. It'd be weird if we upgraded to a version that's worse, right? That would be a weird. That would be a weird flex. Now even worse, CultCloth.
And yet it happens.
And yet people do. No, it doesn't happen with CultCloth. Just to be clear.
Not with the
But it
CultCloth.
does happen.
Of course
It does happen. I would argue the M3 Pro chips and the everything but the M3 Max chip last year were worse versions of things that had been released previously in many ways. But not with the CultCloth. We would never do you like that. And our carry cloth now is a new version that gets even better as you use it. It develops like this fibrous fluff. There we go, fibrous fluff TM that works very similarly to like our CultCloth Duo. Griffin is wearing it as a face mask, also healthy for your skin. Actually, it probably works great for your skin, to be honest with you. You could probably use these things as like a facial scrub. I wouldn't use it on your lenses or MacBook Pro after that, but you could. And it develops this fibrous fluff that kind of reaches down into the cracks and crevices of your glasses and your lenses and stuff, just like the CultCloth Duo. Maybe not as dramatically as the CultCloth Duo, but you'll have an assortment of great cloths to clean everything in your life, and nothing will work better. It leaves behind nothing but sparkling glass and metal. I'm not sure what Griffin's doing there. I'm starting to worry for his mental health. Are you creating a new Vision Pro made of CultCloth? Is that?
That's right.
Wow. This is an unbelievable game of charades that we're playing here with Griffin. So you could have saved yourself $4,000, Griffin, and just done that.
My life will never be the same.
If you haven't yet purchased some CultCloth, they make great gifts, obviously. Go to cultcloth.co, cultcloth.co, and use code CultCast to checkout. You'll score yourself an extra carry cloth with orders $20 plus. Thank you to everyone who's already ordered and supported. Let's go ahead and dive right into the Griffin Talk Show. Da, dun, dun, da, 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 da. Take it away, Griffin. What are we talking about? Me and Lewis will just sit here quietly.
Let's start with the M4 iMac. The headline of my review is, you don't have to pick between fast or fun. You know, really, every time you talk about the new iMac, you have to talk about the fact that it's kind of weird that Apple still makes an all-in-one desktop computer. You know, the desktop computer is kind of like an endangered breed. But if you have room for one in your life, the new one is beautiful and has pretty impressive performance. I ordered the very base model one. So for $12.99, the 4.5K display, 256 gigabytes of storage, 16 gigabytes memory, the 8-core M4 chip. And, you know, the colors are just gorgeous. If you bought silver, there's something wrong with you. I got the green one. It looks all minty.
It does look very minty, I have to say, back there. It reminds me of the AirPods Max.
Yeah. I recommend putting it in a spot in your house if you can, where you can see the back as well, because you get that rich color as well. And like, I've acquired a lot of house plants over the last year, so I took a lot of pictures around those. Very, very scenic.
Great pictures in that review, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they are beautiful.
The display isn't Apple's brightest. Like you hear them throw around these numbers all the time, and you're like, well, how much is a nit? This is a 500 nit display, and I turned it up to max brightness, and I was immediately blinded. Like I just turned it back down. I actually had it around like a third to like 40% most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried testing it with its like display reflectivity. So I put it right in front of like a giant window, and you know, with like direct sunlight falling on it, you do still see a lot of reflections, but the display is still legible. It is nice to have the nano texture display option though. Let's see. I tried out Desk View. This is the feature where it like skews the camera image to make it look like you have like a top-down camera. But I discovered that you need a really long desk for it to work. I had it sitting on like a sort of like a standard, 18-inch deep desk, sort of sitting in the middle. And Desk View was more like Legs View. It's if you look at Apple's product images, like marketing images, you can see like they have it sitting on like the back of like a long table in their videos, which you don't catch at like the fast-paced marketing video. But yeah, I don't know how much utility I'll get out of that. Now that it has 16 gigs of memory as default, I think it's pretty obvious 256 gigabytes of storage is the new pinch point.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first thing you would upgrade if you have a little more money. But I think it's a little less painful. Like many more people can get by with 256 as opposed to like could get by with only 8 gigabytes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like
that's totally true.
A lot of people do their work on the web and only need local storage for the apps and things like Microsoft Office, and that's pretty much it. And
oh, for sure,
you can fit that with 256.
Yeah.
I was also really impressed by the performance. Apple throws out these numbers and like they cherry pick the best stats, like 500% faster at this one specific benchmark that they do, and the benchmarks don't tell the whole story either. And this comes up more in my Mac Mini review, but I sat there like with a stopwatch, just like timing how long it takes to do ordinary parts of my job, like video editing, exporting an episode of the CultCast, image upscaling in Pixelmator, like building apps in Xcode, like standard computer hobbyist stuff. And the M4 chip outperformed the M2 Pro in basically everything, So, really the rule of thumb is that like every 2 generations, like the chips go down a tier or like up a tier in performance. Mm-hmm. So the old M2 Pro is now the entry level M4. And with the M4 generation, it's even more extreme than that because like the M4 Pro is outclassing the M2 Ultra in some areas.
I was just going to say this generation, I think, is definitely outclassing M3 in almost every capacity. Like it doesn't, it's that 2 generations has been condensed into one and maybe even less because of the huge performance gains that we're seeing with M4. I mean, that is the upgrade this year is the performance.
The biggest downside is the ports. I don't know why the entry-level model only has 2 ports on the back. The MacBook Air has 3 ports. The Mac Mini has 5 ports. I could sort of see the argument that, well, they probably didn't want to retool all their machining or whatever, keep the manufacturing costs low, but they previously made the higher end iMac has 4 ports on the back. There's really no reason why the entry level model can't also have 4 ports. It could just, maybe they're just 3 Thunderbolt ports and 1 USB port, but
They got to give you some reason to spend more money.
yeah.
Especially now that they're giving you the extra RAM.
Those gotta cost like at least $3 each.
I was gonna say 3 cents.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
They're
maybe even
probably
3 cents.
in there. Actually, they're probably actually on the motherboard.
They're buried under the aluminum.
They just put the aluminum over them, so you can't use them. We need to have somebody take that thing apart and check.
But all in all, I liked having an iMac. It was nice having a computer that's fun, and I like my Mac Mini, but it always feels like a workstation. It's nice sitting in a brighter part of the house than this office and looking at just a fun computer. If you have space in your life for an all-in-one, it's a good it's nice that Apple makes one very good all-in-one computer.
Dude,
That's all I have to say about it.
I think for the price, there is no better computer for most people. It's completely capable. It could probably edit 4K video. It has a 4K screen. Most computers would struggle to drive a 4K monitor. You can't even use a 4K monitor with most PCs unless you have a pretty decent graphics card. It's like the fact that and not to mention 4K monitors are expensive. So the fact that you could get a chip that could easily edit 4K video, that has a 4K monitor built in, 4.5K, right? And has a bunch of powerful ports and is beautiful. I think that for the price, especially with 16 gigs being the standard for RAM, for most people, unless they really want a laptop, this is probably an unbeatable value. Until you go much, much higher in price. Much higher in price. And for an all-in-one, it's what computers actually are out there that compete with this? There's not very many. It's kind of in a class of its own.
I think the iMac is what I'm going to be most sad to return to the Apple Store.
Yeah.
And this is a bit of a tangent, but not least because the employees at the Apple Store were very nice. Apparently I actually ordered a purple one, but when I got to the Apple Store, they were like, "Oh, we don't have it in the mail yet. It'll be here in the UPS truck, which will arrive a few hours later in the afternoon." I was like, "Well, I can't wait that long. Let me just cancel that order and just buy a green one instead." With the same price, entry-level model. They're like, "Oh yeah, sure, we can do that for you." And then when the purple one comes in, we'll just mark that as inventory. So,
Nice.
No problem. Easy peasy. It's Apple kind of dug their own grave there by making the same computer in 7 different colors, but
They do have lots
the
of
employees are
colors.
very accommodating.
Yeah. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna see if there's anything interesting about the unboxing of that computer.
Nope. Let's talk about the MacBook Pro.
There's some kind of embarrassing GIF that I'm supposed to play here.
Okay, yeah.
Something?
Well, look, you get the box. Apple's attention to detail is famous. It's their whole thing. You get the box, and the box has the picture of the iMac on the front, sitting with the top on the top and the bottom on the bottom. And there's the handle on the top of the box too. So you sit it down on a desk. And,
Oh my gosh.
there it is.
Dude.
The problem is that you open the box and the iMac falls out because somehow it's upside down inside the box. And I don't know why this is. And yeah, look, a lot of people in the comments on basically every social media platform this is posted is basically saying you imbecile, everybody knows you need to sit the box down.
I wouldn't have
laying
known
flat.
that.
You did set it
Okay,
down,
well, the
just on the
picture-
wrong
the
side.
picture- Yeah, well, the picture on the front shows it the other way.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't think
Honestly,
it's
when you said
unreasonable
this,
to
I was
assume. I don't
I'm
think it's
sorry.
unreasonable to assume that it's sitting the way that the picture is on the box. And the lid opens starting from the top of the box. So you assume, okay, well, it makes it. I don't
For
know.
those of you listening, we're looking at a GIF of Griffin opening up the pizza box upside down here. And as he opens it, the iMac slowly tumbles out and then flies towards the ground. And the look on
Slowly,
his
it's like,
Well, it starts slow and then it happens fast. And you could see the look of pure panic on Griffin's face as that thing starts to head towards the ground at 140 miles per hour.
I was trying to get him to post a video clip in that post, but he's like, let's just do a GIF. That way I won't have to censor it. Won't have to censor the audio.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's all right, man. I made a YouTube video a while back about this floating DeLorean from Back to the Future. And I got this really cool, like artifact from the movie that floats on this magnetic base. And it's kind of hard to place on the magnetic base. If you don't do it just right, it doesn't float. And I couldn't get it to float. And so eventually I unplugged this thing. And I keep trying because I need to move away from the wall. And I couldn't get it to float, unplug it, couldn't get it to float, couldn't get it to float. And then I realized that it's not going to work because it's unplugged, right? It has to be plugged in. So I plug it back in and I try it and I finally get it. And I put all that in the YouTube video and I've never been roasted so hard in my life. They're like, dude, it's not plugged in. Dude, it's not plugged in, you idiot. It's not plugged in. So I feel your pain from opening the box upside down. Sometimes you're doing what you're doing and you don't realize, You don't realize.
I think this is a very brave post you did, Griffin. Come and clean with
you
this.
made me do. I'll remind you.
Is there any way to pause this GIF right where Griffin is completely panicking? He's going, oh! It's like watching your child fall out of your car, like because you left them in their car seats on the top. That's the face Griffin's making here.
When I read the face of realizing that I might not get my $1,400 back in my 2-week return window.
Jeez, can you? I mean, I'm actually. When I read your description of it, I was like, "Are you kidding me? Why would they do that?" And we still don't know, right? We still have no idea why in the world they put that. That doesn't make any sense.
Have it the other way inside the box.
What gives?
It falls over when you open it because the heavy part of the iMac is on top. I don't know why they do that.
It's weird as can be.
All right. Well, it looks like it didn't break, so you were spared. You were spared this time, but next time you learned a hard life lesson there. Let's talk about the MacBook Pro. So I didn't write this review. Who wrote this review? David Snow.
David Snow.
He did his review upgrading from the M1 Pro to the M4 Pro. I mean, first of all, really? The M4 Pro? No M4 Max? What's going on here? We'll allow it. But we'll go through his review. I'll add some color commentary, and I also want to weave in just some of the other reviews that I've seen so far. So according to David, he says, while the M4 or the M1 Pro and the M4 Pro laptops could be the exact same machine, judging from the outside, the new one takes some big steps forward in performance. I think that's the marquee feature. David got the space black rather than silver. Space black is like a darker version of space gray, which many of you know. I think I'm going silver this year. I think the space black is just too black for me. And also, I heard it is an absolute fingerprint magnet from multiple people because it's so dark, it just shows fingerprints really badly. So I think this year might be a return to silver for me. He didn't go for the nano texture display, which I personally think is the right move. I've seen a bunch of reviews about the nano texture display. People saying that they really like it because it cuts down on glare and your laptop will be in situations where there could be glare. And it's only $150. I just don't like that it cuts down on the contrast and the vibrancy of the colors. I think the nano texture display might be one of the reasons why Apple boosted the brightness of the screen to 1,000 nits to overcome the reduction in clarity and saturation and just brightness from the nano texture display. I hear people like it. I don't have a need for it. I wouldn't recommend it, but some people seem to really like it a lot. Apple obviously upgraded the web. I almost said the web cram. It probably was crammed in there, so that's not far off. The M3 MacBook Pro models, it was a 1080p camera. Now it's a 12 megapixel center stage camera. I haven't seen a lot of differences in quality. I was hoping for a much bigger difference in the actual video quality. Haven't really seen that, to be honest. It kind of looks the same. So I don't know how much this will impact you unless you're planning on walking around while you're having FaceTime calls, but that is a an upgrade. The M4 Pro 4K video editing is silky smooth. In fact, I think probably the best machine from a value perspective this year is the M4 Pro MacBook Pro. That thing is absolutely insane. I mean, from what I'm seeing, it's outperforming maybe not the top spec, but the base spec M3 Max from last year. And it has way less cores, like way less CPU cores and far, far less GPU cores. So that is the marquee feature, is the massive increase in performance. I personally would still probably not go for the M4 Pro, but I think for the vast majority of people who are sane and don't have a compulsion to buy the absolute best that Apple is releasing, even though it far exceeds their actual technical needs, it's probably the best machine for most people. And
especially if you're just a writer for Cult of Mac and not someone who pretends to be a YouTuber.
That's true. And if you ever have hopes of doing YouTube, then maybe get the M4 Max. But even so, I don't know what kind of video editing you would need to be doing that you would require an M4 Max. I think that for Final Cut Pro, the M4 Pro is going to be able to do everything you could possibly want. I've seen people stress test these machines, and the lengths to which they have to go to actually make the M4 Pro start struggling is in comic territory. It's like stuff that most people would never do. So I think the value play here is the M4 Pro. I'm still going to go for the M4 Max, personally, just because I have to. Battery life is much better. Dave was saying he got about 20 hours of mixed use battery life. It looks like he got the 14-inch here as well, which is funny because all the tests that I've seen, almost all, are all about the 14-inch. I see very few people testing the 16-inch, which I think is very strange. And I'll talk more about that, why that matters here in a sec. Is it worth the upgrade? He's saying for professionals whose work demands the highest performance, definitely. The time saved on resource-intensive tasks alone could justify the cost. That is true. From a lot of the benchmarking that I've seen, the M4 Pro is outclassing the M3 Max. It's even outclassing the M2 Ultra in some tests. I mean, it is just an absolutely bonkers, probably one of the biggest, I would say maybe the biggest performance increase we've seen since the switch to M1, maybe even bigger than the switch to M1. I mean, it is just absolutely outpowering everything that Apple sells. The other thing I will mention is beware of the 14-inch. I have seen tests that even the M4 Pro is overheating slightly and having to throttle. And I haven't seen a lot of tests on it being a M4 Max 14-inch. I think the M4 Max version, strangely, we haven't seen these benchmarks yet, are going to overheat to such a degree that you may actually be wasting your money to upgrade to the higher spec M4 chips, because the M4 may not be able to cool those chips sufficiently so that they can maintain their performance, which is a problem we've had on many Macs in years past. So I would wait on benchmarks before going out and buying an M4 Max 14-inch MacBook Pro. I think those chips are going to perform much better in the 16-inch versions. Max Tech in previous years has been faster to release videos about the Max spec chips and the 14-inch versions versus the 16-inch versions. They haven't put out a lot of content recently in regards to MacBook Pro performance. They've been doing like a lot of like iMac and like Mac Mini videos, which I kind of find confusing because I think that most people are interested in the actual MacBook Pro. So I'm not sure why they haven't released those yet. I'm sure they will eventually, so I'm kind of keeping my eyes peeled. But I haven't seen a ton of benchmark tests really anywhere on YouTube about the 14-inch or the 16-inch MacBook Pros. Like everyone's talking about like the Mac Mini, which again, I find to be odd because I know that that machine is exciting and it's a redesign, but most people are not interested in the Mac Mini. So we're still kind of waiting to see like what the true performance is of the M4 Max. I will say that there was one guy, I wish I should have brought up his video, who did a test of the M1 Max versus the M4 Max versus the M2 Ultra, I think. And the M4 Max was beating absolutely everything, destroying the M1 Max, obviously. Although there were some tests, specifically in video encoding and video editing, that it didn't actually do that much better than the M1 Max, which I found was interesting. And the M4 Max was destroying the M2 Ultra in virtually everything except for specific applications where those applications really actually take full advantage of all the cores you could throw at them. CPU cores, GPU cores. Now, that's not very many things. And those are the only tests where the M2 Ultra actually outperformed the M4 Max. In all other tests, the M4 Max destroyed the M2 Ultra, which is crazy when you think about the fact that that is a desktop computer with a massive heat sink and is plugged into a wall 24/7. Like, the M4 Max runs on battery power, and it's still outclassing the M2 Ultra. So I think that the M4 Max is probably going to be on par with, well, we never got an M3 Ultra. If it did exist, it seems like it's like M3 Ultra grade performance, which is totally insane for a laptop. So I think my current plan of action, if you're interested, is still to go with the base spec M4 Max. Now I'm kind of leaning towards the 16-inch. From what I've seen so far with the overheating on the 14-inch, I don't know if I can get myself to plurk down the money for a machine that's going to throttle, but I haven't conclusively decided because we need to see more benchmarks, but that's kind of where I've landed so far. But again, kind of strange. We're a week in now. Not a ton of tests. Not nearly as many as I would have guessed for the M4 Max, MacBook Pro. Everyone's testing the M4 Pro version, and everyone's testing the 14-inch, which I find to be totally bizarre. The other thing I'll warn you of is the M4 Pro base model only comes with one fan. So you are going to run into heat issues just for that reason, whereas the upper spec models come with two fans. So for that reason, I also think that you may want to get I think, is it a base M4 Pro? I'd have to go back and look. I forgot the exact details, but just be aware that one of the base models only comes with one fan, so do your research.
Why would they do that?
Well,
because the fan costs $3.
Profit. Because that way they can get you to buy the more expensive machines, I think. Probably.
And it could be that they just think the entry level chip doesn't get as hot as the other ones.
That's probably
if I was
also
being
true.
generous.
Yeah. Yes. You're being more generous than I am. Intuit Tom says the 14 inches for Alex E. Heath. Enough said. I think that's true. Don't be a Heath. Get a real Mac.
Go large.
Yeah. What are you working at The Verge? Yeah. The 16-inch is way heavier, so for that reason, I really don't want to get the 16-inch. But I've used this analogy before. It's like you don't want to put a Porsche. Well, this is actually a bad example. I was going to say you don't want to put a Porsche engine in a Subaru. You could actually literally buy that car. You don't want to put a Ferrari engine in a Isuzu. You know, it's like it just doesn't make any sense. The car's not built for that engine. Your wheels are going to fly off. You'll never get the top speed. Like, the engine has to match the chassis, if you get my drift. So you need to have you may need to have a larger machine to take advantage of all the horsepower of the chip that you're putting inside it. And you could buy one of those really expensive configurations in a 14-inch model. Apple will let you, but it's going to probably overheat so bad that it's going to throttle. And unless you're working in like 5 to 10 second intervals of compute, you'll never actually see any kind of sustained performance increase. So it's probably not worth it. In fact, Max Tech said something that I think will prove to be true. They're like, we bet that the 16-inch M4 Pro model, MacBook Pro, will outperform the M4 Max version of the MacBook, or the 14-inch. And I bet you that will be true because of the throttling, because you need that airflow in order to keep the chips cool. All right, I have sufficiently derailed us. Are we going to the Mac Mini review?
Somebody
next?
who does like the Mac Mini.
Hey, look, I got no problem with the Mac Mini. I just think it's
Someone
not for
who
me
does
or
have
anyone with
respect for the
self-respect.
best computer in the world.
They've got respect for the computer, but not for themselves. Take it away, Griffin.
Mac Mini with M4 Pro is mightier and minier than ever.
Oh, yeah.
So I also ordered the high-end Mac Mini with the M4 Pro chip. $1,400. It comes with 512 gigs of storage, 24 gigs of memory, and the 12-core M4 Pro. The iMac, I should say, I set up as brand new and just, signed into my iCloud account. This is a computer that I literally just swapped from my M2 Mac Mini and restored from a time machine backup, same peripherals, everything, same setup. It is small. It's very small. I usually have this old Timex clock like a flip clock from the 80s, sitting on top of my Mac Mini. And because I'm in Ohio and I work in California time, I have a like physical clock on my desk that shows like it's 3 hours behind. The new Mac Mini is smaller than the clock, so I had to just put it somewhere else on my desk. That's how small it is. It's also the lightest Mac ever made. The Mac Mini is almost half a pound lighter than the 12-inch MacBook.
Wow.
Isn't that
That's
insane?
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
The ports on the back look gorgeous. The Mac Mini used to have this big, like black plastic backplate. Now it's aluminum all the way around, just like the Mac Studio. I just, everybody's talking, how do I feel about the power button? It's really not a big deal. The power button on the bottom, like the computer is so small and light that it's not hard pressing it the 2 times a year that you have to. I've pressed the power button on all of these Macs more times in the last week than I have in like the year before that because I've been moving
Right.
them around my house and all that. In fact, the new power button on the Mac Mini is like rounded on the inside, whereas the old one was like flush against the side. So, although it's in a slightly less convenient location, it's actually easier to press without looking. How's
There
that?
you go.
You mean it's like concave or something?
Yeah, it's like curved inwards a little bit. It's easier to press.
I mean, the only way that would be a real pain is if you had it like shoved in an enclosure or something, right? Like if you stuck it under your monitor and back underneath
Yeah.
a desk, or not a desk, but like a riser.
I can imagine like any enclosures that you're gonna find for this Mac Mini are just gonna have a little cutout for the power button. It's not a big deal. I also recently discovered that there's an option if you go to System Settings, Energy, it's like power on automatically after power failure. And if you just check that box, then that immediately solves like 90% of the time where I have to push the power button.
There's a pro tip.
Yep,
Better
there you go.
publish that 20 minutes after the show's over.
Get that out quick. Get that out
The
quick.
headphone jack moving around to the front is as irritating as I thought it would be. I had it like, and instead of like reaching the audio cable all the way around to the front, I just had the like cable going through my display and routing the audio out of there. But that presents its own problems because when you have your display plugged in over HDMI, then you can't control the volume from the Mac anymore. And that's kind of a pain. So I'm actually kind of glad to be going back to my M2 Pro Mac Mini for that reason. Still have that.
I mean, it's a headphone jack. It's like it's designed for headphones.
Be glad that you have a headphone jack at all. Am I right?
I mean, that actually is true. That actually is true.
I
They could have
acknowledge I'm
removed
the
it.
outlier here.
Johnny Ive would have removed that thing. That would have been spackled over, and you would have had to use an adapter.
The internal speaker, I confirmed this, still sounds like absolute trash.
Well,
I don't expect any nobody uses that anyways. The performance is a big bump up, 22% faster exporting video, 49% faster exporting audio, 35% faster image upscaling. This thing's a monster. It's the best value in the computer industry, made even better by the fact that it's now smaller and more adorable. There you go, new Mac Mini.
and you're not keeping it.
No, I intentionally ordered a model with not enough internal storage space and not enough memory so that I wouldn't be tempted to keep it because I can't afford to buy another computer right now.
God.
So you bought a model no one's gonna want. You're gonna return it to Apple, and they're gonna be like, "We can't sell this thing. Who ordered this thing?"
Well, look, I'm not saying nobody's going to want this model. Like,
Yeah.
ordinary people can do fine with 512 gigabytes of storage space, but I have 2 terabytes on my Mac Mini, and I'm already bumping against the edges
Yeah.
almost every week. So if I buy another Mac Mini, I'm going to want at least 48 gigabytes of memory and at least 8 terabytes of internal storage.
I finally got set up with the dream situation. I installed a 10G switch in the Cult Command Center. I installed the 10G card on the Synology NAS, and I have a OWC dock with 10G built in. It's unbelievable. I installed a 10G Ethernet card on the Colt Commander, and now I got 10G, all over the place. Although 10 gigabit, by the way, it's like the next version or the fastest version of Ethernet that you can get right now. It's not quite as fast as I would have guessed it would be. Like my transfer rates, like sustained, are probably only like 500 megabytes per second, which is not as good as you would think it would be, but it's plenty fast for 4K video editing. I mean, and probably the mechanical hard drives and the Synology NAS are probably the limited factor, would be my guess. Some of them are maybe not the fastest drives, but 500 gigabytes a second for video editing is pretty darn good. So like now I can just offload all my video to the Synology NAS. Not that I do, because I don't make content, but I could if I wanted to, and that's what's important, is removing feature obstacles, right? And move things back and forth between Final Cut Pro and the Synology NAS and not have to keep all that stuff on my Mac. And does that mean I'm going to get a Mac spec'd with lower storage space? What do you think? I'm going to have to go for 8 terabytes, I think, because that's the best that Apple has. Is it worth the $4,000? Probably not. No, I'm not going to go that crazy, but I think you got to go at least 2, in my opinion, because your iCloud photo library, you need to have a full backup of that somewhere, and so I want to have enough space to potentially download my whole photo library, but actually that won't be true for much longer, will it? Because I'm about to pass the 2 terabyte mark. God help me. More money for Apple. All right, are you done with that story?
Yep.
All right.
I'm going to say that we're planning on doing a full walkthrough of the new Magic keyboard, trackpad, and mouse.
Yeah.
We're running out of time here, so I'll just give a shout out to those. I reviewed all the new products. They're basically the same, except with USB-C. There's your review.
Well,
For better or worse.
and
It serves well with the Magic Trackpad because the Magic Trackpad is already an excellent product.
Yeah.
But I was hoping the Magic Mouse would be completely different, and it isn't.
And Griffin will post these in the show notes if you want to check these out. When you say we're almost out of time, I see all these stories are marked out. Did you mean to close all these out?
Yeah.
Are we trying to wrap up?
We have like 7 minutes left.
What he literally just said.
Oh, I know, but are we wrapping up at 1:30 on the nose?
You usually tell us that you have to leave.
Oh, okay. Because I was like,
have that limit.
I don't have to be walking these sweet buns out the door right at 7:30.
Okay,
Wow, we've got a reprieve.
Yeah, I thought maybe there's something else going on. I was like, what's going on? All these stories are disappearing before my eyes. Did Thanos snap?
That's uncut Apple Music then.
Yeah, we should definitely keep that story in. But I don't mind if we cut out the accessory stories. People can go read those on their own, and then that way they can get your take on those new accessories: the Magic Trackpad, the Magic Mouse, and the Magic Keyboard. Griffin bought it all. I don't envy you and your return trip to the Apple Store when you walk in with all this stuff to return it, and you're like, I'd like to return these things, please. And they're like, there's like 8 things here.
Well, I'm sorry. They should have just made them better. I was preparing to keep
all right.
the Magic Mouse, but I just didn't like it.
So you legitimately don't like them. Okay, well, that's fair. I mean, like, if you're like, yeah, I don't like this stuff, man. All right, Lewis. Let's talk about something we're all going to like and definitely buy and keep. The wall-mounted. What did I say? That's so weird. I don't know.
Wall-mounted.
The wall-mounted iPad.
Yeah, Apple's next big thing. Yeah, okay. Apple plans to release, quote, a wall-mounted display that can control appliances, handle video conferencing, and use AI to navigate apps. This report comes, of course, from
your favorite guy,
Bloomberg's reporter.
Yeah.
Mark Gurman, maybe you've heard of him. Anyway, supposedly this is going to be a command center for smart homes, supposedly be an inexpensive, that part I don't believe, inexpensive wall-mounted tablet-like computer used to control smart devices and make video calls. The device also would serve as an access point for the upcoming AI-powered Siri, which of course is going to be completely useful. Just completely useful. I cannot wait to start using how great it's going to be. Let's see. Device supposedly includes a 6-inch touchscreen. It looks like an iPad, except
that's small.
Except with a square display and a significant screen. Here's that word I hate to say because I always say it wrong. Bezel? Bezel?
Bezel. You struggle with the word bezel?
I always struggle with it. I don't know.
It's like when people call Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, screen
it just
Beelzebub.
really irks me. Okay, well now I believe that this will be inexpensive. If it has a 6-inch screen, that's tiny.
Yeah, it's probably going to be, kind of crappy screen. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Bloomberg describes the device's user interface as a blend of the Apple Watch operating system and the iPhone's recently launched standby mode. Okay, that's interesting. It's good. We've heard about this thing before, so these details are new, and it makes it sound like kind of an interesting device, right? Intent is for users to talk to the wall-mounted device more than tap on it. This is another quote from the Gurman story. Quote, a person familiar with its development said the product is designed to bring Siri and Apple Intelligence to life in a way that hasn't happened before.
Hopefully that means it will understand what you're saying. Is that the way? I hope that's the way.
And actually provide answers to questions you ask,
Dude.
rather than saying, check your iPhone.
I mean, I know that we talk about this probably way too much, and we should probably stop. But I only bring it up because I am so surprised that it is still so bad. I talk to Siri all the time, and it just either A, doesn't work at all, so the dictation just stops. Like the microphone's on, but you're talking and it's like not hearing anything that you're saying, nothing shows up. Or it so horrendously butchers what your sentence actually was that it's an affront to Apple fans and tech enthusiasts everywhere. And whoever's responsible for this abomination should be tarred, feathered, sent to Siberian prison, and also shot.
No,
with a paintball gun. I don't want them to be dead, but I want them to be embarrassed.
Oh, okay.
You didn't let me finish.
What color paint?
Well, what's the most embarrassing color? Purple?
Let's see. Covered in tar, you'd probably want it to be, well, but then the feathers are white and the tar is probably black, so maybe red.
Black and red.
Shoot them, it'll be red paintball.
Something needs to be done. Lewis, that's all I'm saying. Something needs to be done.
Oh, true.
Maybe we could get Trump to appoint a new cabinet position, fixer of Siri and dictation. We need a new cabinet position, that has some kind of legal standing. That's all I'm saying.
I think he'll let Tim Apple handle that.
Chairman Honeycrisp, maybe? I don't know. But somebody needs to fix this dang thing, and I don't know why it's still ongoing.
You know what I find amazing is when I'm using Apple Music or Apple TV, and I request the exact title of a show or a song or an album, and it just can't do it.
Yep.
Cannot do it. And I don't know, man. That drives me mad. CarPlay, like I almost shot a video. Well, I was driving down the road at 70 miles an hour, so of course I'm not gonna shoot a video. But my wife and I are driving down the road, and I said, play, this playlist. It just went on and on saying, sorry, I can't do that. What playlist do you want to hear? I'd say it again, and it'd say, what playlist do you want to hear? I mean, it was almost enough to make me drive off the road in just a fit of rage. Anyway, so the good news is that
a fitting end for Lewis Wallace.
That actually
right off a cliff.
I don't want you to die anytime soon, Lewis, but when you go, I want it to be that way.
Death by Siri.
He's just blinded by rage, and he just careens right. Well, there's some like California mountain highway road. He just careens right off the cliff, and when his car hits the bottom, it just explodes.
Here's what I found on the web for.
So here's the nugget that this makes this all sound plausible, even more plausible. I mean, like I said, we've been hearing about this for a while. But so Apple's wall-mounted smart home device allegedly will launch in March, or could launch by March, and that's about when the AI-enhanced Siri is supposed to debut, right? That's supposedly coming in iOS 18.4, and so I mean, won't it be embarrassing if they release that and it is just as bad as it already is, or it's like
it's gonna be, Lewis. It
thinks a little more and works a little less well.
It's gonna be.
Oh my God! I got balloons.
Lewis is triggering the camera effects over that. You did the peace sign. Yeah, that must be it.
Oh, it was a peace sign that did that.
I think so. The doubles. There. Oh, that's confetti.
No, confetti. I don't know what in the world I did. What's this get me?
It's gonna be bad, man. It's not gonna be fixed. I'll be the first one to celebrate when Tim Apple finally programs this himself and gets it working, because we definitely need it to be fixed. But I think that this new iPad is gonna be probably the first to feature, first of all, Home OS to control your home devices and be able to interact with your HomeKit devices and have something that's just always on, which actually I think would be useful and something that
Yeah.
I would be interested in, as long as it's cheap. And if it's going to be 600 or if it's going to have a 6-inch display, I think it's going to be cheap. It has a small display.
So that's the last little bit here. Supposedly it's going to, this is speculation, I suppose. Perhaps around $200.
Oh, dude.
Insider sources.
That would be a great price.
But then, the more costly follow-up, the one with the robotic arm.
Yeah.
The tabletop iPad on a robot arm. That one's going to be, like, I've heard closer to $1,000. Which,
DOA, man. DOA. Nobody wants a robotic arm for $1,000.
So, but so seriously, you think that? So you're saying, oh, this $200 thing sounds good. Well, so you already have this on your phone. You already have this on your Apple TV. You already have this on your
but we're
Mac.
talking about us, man. You got to open up the Home app, and then you got to like interact with your devices and switch locations. In my
shouldn't
case,
have to. You should just be able to say, "Hey, you know who, do this." I mean,
yeah, but
you got it on your wrist.
But you know,
for crying out loud.
You know who doesn't? There's no consistent visual way to know what your options are and interact with your home. And I think that's why this is appealing. It's like it's a control panel that's always on, or will probably always be on, that probably shows you other things, like maybe it can be a photo frame when it's not being used, but you can tap it and quickly, the key word, quickly access the devices in your home and turn them on and off and make them do things. I actually think that would be useful.
I don't know. I mean, I've had various.
Yeah.
I've had
you could
various.
have one right outside your bedroom door to turn off all the dang lights people leave on at the end of the day.
Yeah. For
I mean,
that price,
I think
you might even have multiple of these.
The one thing that it does is if you like mount it by your front door or something, then like if your dog sitter comes over, they can manage all that stuff. That's the only real use case I see for it is people who aren't on your. Who people who aren't you, if you have visitors at your house, like how they don't know how to, that's the one thing that's weird about getting all this stuff automated. And, like you say, turn on the lights, and your friends are like, well, they don't know all those, they don't know how to turn on the lights. If they wake up before you and they go downstairs to make coffee, how do they turn on the lights? They don't know.
That's a great observation. I have people come over to my house. No, you go ahead, Griffin.
Do you think this product started when all the Apple senior vice presidents like went on a corporate retreat and realized just complained to each other about how like their housekeepers or whatever didn't know how to do all these things, and like let's just make this product for us.
Yeah, I think that you could be right about that. Whenever I have people come to my house, so we have a bunch of smart lights everywhere, they never know how to turn the lights on and off. And I'll come home and I'll try to turn my lights on, and it's like they don't work because people have gone to the lamps and switched them off because people just don't understand how these things work, how to operate them. And so in a way, it makes controlling this smart technology easier and more approachable by the plebs, the people who don't listen to tech podcasts.
People who aren't you and your people on your
which is most
your
people.
Apple account.
Yeah. Which is
it's housekeepers, dog sitters, friends, guests.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's the one thing that makes sense to me, because I can't imagine like where would I put this in my house that I would use it. Because I always have my phone, I always have my watch. I don't need another way to turn things on and off. I mean, I need a reliable way. It would be nice if my watch and my phone were reliable. But why would this be reliable but my phone is not?
Yeah, I get you. Well, I'll be looking forward to that. If it is $200, then I got a $200 purchase in my feature. Speaking of purchases in my feature, did y'all see that Nintendo released a new alarm clock called the Alarmo?
No.
Yeah.
What a quirky, bizarre product this is, and I don't know why, but I want it so bad. It's $100.
What?
It's $100 alarm clock. Let's see if I can bring this up.
Let's see a picture.
Nintendo
Prepared.
But you can only buy it in true Nintendo fashion if you have a Nintendo Online membership. And the thing plays like music, and
it looks like a cartoon alarm clock with a screen on it.
It basically is.
Like animated like characters on the front, like you can have it Mario themed or Zelda themed or Animal Crossing themed. It plays music from the video games to like wake you up and like set the mood to go to bed.
Is that big white thing on the top? Is that a snooze button?
It's like a dial and also a button.
Oh,
Yeah. So it like helps you to interact with it. And I guess the thing has like a camera in it, and when it sees you waking up, it will play like game sounds to like motivate you to actually like wake up.
God, that's
I
what
mean, hey, look, this thing looks cool, man. I kind of want to buy one just to try it out. But when I was a kid, we all had the same alarm clock. It was called the Sony Dream Machine. And that was a misnomer because it should have been called the Nightmare Inducer. Its alarm would go, and that's how it woke you up. There was no gradual, raising of the volume. There were no pleasant noises. That thing was designed to do one thing, terrify you until you got up out of your bed. And it did that. And now all these kids, oh, it's Mario. It's me, Mario. Time to get up. Oh, it's Zelda. Oh, playing music, gradually uplifting the volume to not disturb you too quickly while you're in bed. Oh, I still want one, but $99, dude. $100.
It's expensive.
I know. It is expensive. Leave it to Nintendo to come up with a quirky product. Speaking of quirky products, talk about a Segway. My goodness. Could John Gruber pull that off? I doubt it. Let's talk about another quirky product that you're probably going to think is overpriced,
God.
and yet you should probably buy. Apple Music turns its 100 best albums list into a $450 coffee table book. I thought that the story was fake, and yet here it is. It's actually real, which I did not realize. Apple released its best 100 best albums list gradually online over 10 days in May. Some people expressed shock at the number one pick, 1998's The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. Look, that was a great song. It was one of the best of its time. Number one, no way. Number one, no way. I mean, I could put Jamiroquai ahead of Lauryn Hill, but maybe not all of Jamiroquai.
Oh my God, that's the second time in 1 week I've heard that word spoken aloud.
Yeah, it's not spoken much
One
these
more
days.
time, and I'm going to get Beetlejuiced.
and that lead singer is going to show up and start dancing in your living room, and he'll never leave. Now you might be shocked that you're being asked to pay $450 for a fancy limited edition coffee table book version of that whole list. This is actually being produced by Apple Music in collaboration with the luxury book brand Asulene. Asulene.
It's gasoline without the G. Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's okay. The book spans 208 pages and includes 97 illustrations, mostly album art. It weighs 8 pounds. Its exterior is all white with no markings, which sounds like Apple design. A transparent acrylic slipcase includes title information, the Apple Music logo, and etched edition number identifying your book edition number. So there's only going to be 1,500 of these made, which is why if you haven't pre-ordered, they're probably already sold out. And the only reason I thought this story was interesting was, you remember that dang book that Johnny Ive released? What was that thing called?
I think it was just
designed in
Apple
California.
In California.
Okay.
I wish I bought one.
Me too. Everyone does, because those
Not
things...
just to sell, but like I genuinely would have wanted to
You
have
actually
one.
just wanted
and, like,
one?
Keep it on my coffee table, and now they're like thousands of dollars on eBay.
They are extremely expensive. They have gone way up in price because Johnny Ive is obviously no longer at Apple, and the book is now a collector's item. And so if you got one of those books that I've made, I mean, you could sell it for thousands of dollars now. I think Leonard got one, didn't he? He actually bought one.
I think he might have.
Yeah. I think I remember him saying that he did get one.
I mean, I realize they're all limited edition and everything, but I mean, come on. At least that book was about something everybody likes. This is like a bunch of album covers and
It's a bunch of album
horrible
art.
list everyone hates. I mean, well, not albums everyone hates, but I mean,
Albums most
it's
people
100% different from that Apple design, whatever it is, designed by Apple book.
Totally. The Design by Apple book was a celebration of industrial design and the work that went into creating some of the best products that ever existed. This is a book full of album art for a list of songs that some editor at Apple Music thought were good, and it's a celebration of what they love, not a celebration of what we love. It's completely different. And so, for that reason, I am boycotting this book. I will not be buying one, Lewis, and neither will the two of you.
That's absolutely true.
And unlike the Design an Apple book, this book will only go down in value. Once you buy it, you will realize what a waste of money it was. Yes, Lewis, go ahead.
Proclamation.
One of the, every day in the newsletter, Leander puts in a poll. The Cult of Mac Today newsletter, which I'm sure everybody has already signed up for.
Of course, I hope so.
It's a fantastic free newsletter, straight from the mind of Leander Caney.
But somehow, if you aren't, you can go to newsletters.cultofmac.com or cultofmac.com/newsletter and sign up right now.
That's true.
Griffin is, by the way, a very good impersonation of how AI ought to work.
Yeah,
so
suspiciously so.
So Leander's one of his poll questions was, should you buy this book, or do you plan to buy this book? And the first comment we got was like, "Are you kidding? I wouldn't pay $450 for a book of my own family's historical photos."
Maybe his family sucks. I've got a bunch of images from my family history, like when my ancestors came here and landed in New York, and there was this one with, I think, like I don't know who he was to me, like my great uncle or great grandfather or something. I don't even know who he was.
Great Uncle Zeppo.
He was driving like 1945. It looked like the car Biff Tannen drove in Back to the Future 2. I mean, it was like a Ford solid steel car. This thing was absolutely beautiful. He's dressed in like this zoot suit with like this, impeccable style to it. And he had like the hat and everything. I think he had a smoke hanging out of his mouth. I was like, this is cool, man. These guys are cool. Like it's really, when you see pictures of your long lost relatives, it's actually, there's something spiritual about that. It connects you to a piece of you that you didn't know about. And so maybe my family, but if your family sucks, I can totally get why you would want to do that. It's like my family has been in Ohio for 400 years, and they've just been farming the whole time. It's like, okay, well maybe that wouldn't be as cool. Actually, I think that would still be cool. You get a picture of like your great grandfather on some rickety old tractor from like 1745, and he's like in the cornfield. He's got a pipe hanging out of his mouth. It's like, I
can just point my camera outside right now, and you can see that.
He's still out there. He's still out there. He's out there right now. He's 185 years old, but he's been living clean. I don't know. I feel like that's pretty cool. Anyway, I digress. I don't know what we should do next. I'd probably just end the show, would be my guess. So I'm going to go ahead and just press the button and say, my friends, that's it. That's all the CultCast we have for you guys this week. But you know what? The fun never ends. If you want to come hang out in the very exclusive Cult Club, where I should probably go and hang out, Griffin's always there. I should be there more often. But not only that, but you can also just support the show, support.thecultcast.com, support.thecultcast.com. And if you want, you can always come hang out with me and Lewis on the all-new X. I'm at Aerofon. Lewis is at Lewis Wallace. I'm at ERFON. Griffin's on the fledgling Mastodon. And I encourage you to go follow him there, because there's only like 25 of them there. They could use the support, get this platform up off the ground. But that's it. We're going to wrap it up there. That's all the CultCast we have for you guys this week. New episodes of the CultCast come out every Thursday night. I want to thank everyone for listening, for hanging out live, and we will see you guys next time. That's it. That's all the strength my voice had left. After the incessant coughing for 1 week.
When's it going to stop? Been coughing for 2 weeks.
Oh, really? Yesterday, I was an absolute vocal facsimile of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. My voice sounded exactly like him because of all the coughing. I've been talking like this.
We'd have had to cancel the podcast. I couldn't take an hour of that.
No way. We're doing it live, Lewis.
Do you think you can lead the FDA?
Is that happening? Hey, the guy can do like 100 push-ups. It's pretty impressive for a 7-year-old guy. All right, everyone. Hope you have a great weekend. We're going to call it there. Haven't you had enough? I think so. Have a good weekend.